Christus. The octave harmony. Apocrypha 3. URIM and THUMMIM. The harmony number space symmetry vector. Pythagorean, overtone chant. Lady Nada, the great mountain. Lady Nada, tablets and language. Lady Nada, the physical realm. Lady Nada, learn by experience. Lady Nada, the language concept. Lady Nada, language logic concept. Lady Nada, the food of the master. Lady Nada, the power of now. Lady Nada, the octave of creation. Lady Nada, the source mountain. Lady Nada, the silent whisper. Lady Nada, creation octave alignment. Octave harmony. Christus. Pythagorean. Overtone chant. Sunday arrived, and Christus was invited to join the others in the master's garden. Everyone brought their own monochord, just like craftsmen bring their tools and market vendors bring their goods and gems. Christus was the youngest among them, and everyone was excited to meet him. They came by, gave him a hug, even though he had never met most of them before. It felt as if he knew them, but they had never crossed paths before. It was an indescribable feeling. There were women and people from faraway places, a dozen in total. The most intriguing part was the opening with the harmony number, performed by a woman from the Great Mountains. She had the same monochord as the others, but hers had only one string. She hadn't brought a bag with bridges. Instead, she used a bow made from ponytail hair. With it, she gently strummed the string. Christus whispered to the master, "How is this possible? I can hear the harmonics, which are the only useful numbers I found when it comes to harmony. But now she's creating the first harmonic above the fundamental, and then I can hear the frequency squeezing into the next higher overtone, even though she's not touching the string except with the bow. I can't understand how this frequency matching is possible without the tuning process." She finished playing, and everyone was delighted and elevated, applauding her performance. Christus approached her and asked, "I can't understand." Meanwhile, Master Carpenter had a conversation with Master Pythagoras and said, "I am very impressed with your apprentice. He is currently experiencing the third concept to understand creation and the universe." Master Pythagoras replied, "Oh yes, he is the brightest of them all. But now there is nothing more for him to learn here because he has just become a master." Master Carpenter asked, "I have to leave now. Could you please ask him if he wants to become my apprentice?" Imagine how smoothly the carpenter chariot would ride if you were the horse leading the way, building bridges and viaducts to make our lives easier. They said their goodbyes, and the horses of Master Carpenter pulled his chariot back home. Octave harmony. Christus. Pythagorean. The Great Mountain. On the other side of the garden, which was incredibly beautiful and spacious, Christus gazed at the woman from the Great Mountain as she began to sing. With her voice, she held the fundamental bass harmonic, and suddenly, a harmonic overtone appeared. It was not a trick or illusion. He could hear that she could play the monochord, but only with her voice. Christus was astonished and got goosebumps once again as he listened. It worked even without the monochord. He asked the lady, "Where do you come from, and how did you learn to do this with just your voice? It's amazing. I could hear the harmonic overtone without the fundamental frequency of your voice. It's as if the bass frequency gets nullified by the resonance of the harmonic, which grows in amplitude. And how can you always perfectly match the next harmonic overtone frequency without any mistuning in between? It's like the next tone is squeezed into the next matching frequency number with perfect alignment." The Lady Master replied, "I come from the Great Mountain. our sacred sanctuary where we reside. Playing the monochord with just our voice is the most natural way for us, allowing us to experience the universe as it resonates within ourselves. We possess the knowledge of how to use it. My name is Lady Nada, and we live in the house inside the mountain. Come, give me a hug, and let's have some more tea. Curious, Christus asked, who are the others in your group, and where did you receive this knowledge? Master Lady Nada answered, we used to live at the base of the mountain, surrounded by lush vegetation. The clouds were too heavy to ascend the mountain, and the abundant rain blessed us with a blissful environment. However, people from a day's walk away became a problem. So, we were asked to journey up the mountain, bringing all the people and children with us. And so we did. Eventually, we found our new home high up in the mountain. But it didn't end there. Inside a room, we discovered a shrine containing the knowledge. Curious, Christus asked, but Master Nada, how did you find it, and who was the master who taught you? Master Lady Nada replied, it was through visions that I received, simply because they chose me. They could have chosen anyone in our village, but it happened to be me. The messages were clear, guiding us at every junction in our path. I would see the right way clearly, aligning with the content of the vision. When we arrived, some of us were eager to meet the master who had led us there. However, the place was empty, with no one present, not even animals, as it is too high in the mountain. Instead, I was given the hidden and locked shrine, as if it held great importance. Inside, we found no books or scrolls, but tablets of utmost beauty and detail, although they contained no words or letters. Octave harmony. Christus. Pythagorean. The language of the universe. Christus asked, what do you mean? Was it about artwork? Master Lady Nada answered, no, it was the knowledge expressed differently. Let me give you an example, but we have to go over there. With her finger, she drew a flower in the sand and said, what do you see? Christus answered, I see a daisy flower. Master Lady Nada replied, I see the same. It is a pictogram, so everyone on the whole earth will see the same thing, which is a daisy flower. The design I made uses only the symbol of a daisy flower, but now you have the clear image of a real flower in your mind. I can even see a field with a group of daisy flowers when I look into your eyes. That's how the true language of God works. It is made in a way that everyone can understand it clearly, without any translation. Christus asked, yes, this concept of using image language simplified with pictograms is very powerful, and even math and geometry are universal, as I have discovered. But how do we build words to describe the knowledge in a meaningful way? I can't understand. Master Lady Nada answered, okay, let's get a fresh can of tea, because this knowledge is quite old. It came from God and was the way to communicate with his children. They walked through the fruit grove, and after passing the vegetable garden, they reached the house. Christus said, let me grab some food here. The salad is the most tasty and powerful. Even the olives and goat cheese are my favorites. He was very quick, and in no time, a salad was prepared since the recipe was simple. The sun was descending towards the horizon, and they decided to sit in the vegetable garden and return soon. Master Lady Nada explained, this language from God is built on symbols representing different parts of creation in and around the universe. The second concept used is numbers to add value, also universal. However, when writing large numbers, each language has a different syntax to express it. The third concept, which builds the foundation, is the use of logic like 0 and 1. 0 represents the complete nothingness, and 1 represents the manifestation that fills the universe. But depending on the context, it can simply represent 0 and 1. Christus was delighted by the wisdom emanating from this woman and said, "Oh yes, 1 and 0 can be everything." Master Lady Nada replied, "Exactly." It was fascinating to learn the language and read the tablets one by one. Everyone, including the kids, would gather in the first row to see the tablet. Then, I received the story behind each symbol, which was unknown at that point. It represents the true meaning or the true name when pronounced. We learned step by step, and the order of the tablets was given to us, arranged so that it began with a lullaby for kids that was easy to understand, using the most colorful and natural language we speak now. Remember, the lullaby was the first word God ever spoke to his beloved children. Christus asked, confused, but who would go through the effort of creating such a work of art with precious stones, inlays, and golden ornaments, just to compose a lullaby? I don't understand. Master Lady Nada answered, in fact, it was a lullaby for kids, but as we learned each symbol involved in the story, we were also learning the language itself, like a learning book for the language, the first book of the library. It was a very special process where, with each symbol we learned, we discovered that it was already within us, but we had forgotten how to express it in text and speech. It was sleeping within us until we learned its true meaning and could read it. From that point on, we started expressing it by pronouncing the true name. I have to go soon, dear Christus, but I promise you will learn everything. Octave harmony. Christus. Pythagorean. Mastering the physical realm. But for now, let me explain what we learned in a nutshell. The universe is created in the following way. Let's begin with 0, the nothingness that can become everything and nothing. Look at the cut face of an apple where you can see the seeds and fruit flesh. Now, what is the smallest thing you can find in it, which must be a lower level layer than the top layer that makes up the apple itself? Christus thought about it and came to the conclusion, well, I can see the tiny dots on the seeds, that is the smallest thing my eyes can estimate. But I've heard rumors that it can be even smaller, very, very, very small, and it's called an atomos, which can never be divided. I like that idea and I can't wait until I learn more and can see it for myself. Master Lady Nada replied, you have learned a lot, and I know exactly how it feels. I was the same way, and still am. It's the desire for the forgotten knowledge sleeping within us that creates the process of learning itself. While others have no desire or purpose to learn beyond language and math, it seems to create a connection. But for those who have the desire, they must learn before they can receive blessings and the necessary vision to align with God. And if necessary, they can counteract by doing what the vision recommends. We first learned the language to read the books necessary to enjoy our first winter in our new home. In springtime, we stayed connected by holding the wisdom on top of our unconditional love. Suddenly, an important vision led us to descend the mountain and help the people of a neighboring village where we used to live. We had no fear or doubt, and we went there but then turned to the west side, where the bridge led to the village gate, mostly built over the water and surrounded by it. We hid ourselves behind the gate and held a special image in our minds, the village wrapped in a sphere of light, reaching to the bridge beyond the gate. Not long after, we could hear the screaming gangsters and the horde of horses galloping, the whips cracking. Christus asked, how many were there, and how old were they? Lady Nada answered, around 6, and around 20 years old. Only a few leaders were around 30. When they made their plundering tour, the leaders were the first squadron, and then others followed. But as soon as they rode toward the bridge, around the corner of a huge rock, there were snakes on the ground and the horses went crazy. Many riders fell off and were trampled by the horses backing off on their rear legs to avoid getting bitten. The scared gangster leaders who could flee just ran away, and the horses ran into the village since some of them were stolen from there. Then the second wave came, but when they tried to cross the bridge, there were scorpions on the bridge. It's usual for us, but the young gangsters led the horses against the scorpions, trampling them to death. This made the horses go crazy again, and the same result occurred, they fled on foot. The third group of gangsters were the newbies, and they got scared and didn't even try to attack. Instead, they left their horses to the higher-ranking ones. It was a great success for the village, and for us, it became clear what the true purpose behind creation and the process of making it was. From then on, we would always receive the necessary vision to be at the right place at the right time. After that, we ascended the mountain and went home. That's why we were given the name, the Ascended Masters of the Great Mountain. The monochord clearly shows the harmony, number space, symmetry, and vector. The tablets teach us how to use our own monochord with our voice. The phenomenon you described is because the entire creation and its evolution are based on the concept described by numbers. God, Alpha Intelligence, has created on the harmonics, which is the house of God with 12 levels. The collectal flower multiples then fill the overtone to become the seed of life, which belongs to the harmonic overtone. The expansion and quality, as you have learned it, are bound to the verse it will build, where the collectal verse is the fundamental frequency. Christus asked, "What do you mean by verse? I don't understand." Lady Nada replied, "The atom is only one top-level layer and low-level layer among many. It's so hard for people to see the real name of it." Christus asked, "What do you mean by the real name? I can't follow. Does everything in existence have its own name?" Lady Nada answered, "Yes, truly, you are right. In the end, everything has its own true name, but only if we know it and can pronounce it can we be in harmony and resonance." Octave harmony. Christus. Pythagorean. Learn by experience. It can be difficult to explain, and I must soon take my leave. But there is a concept that is challenging to grasp, not because of the concept itself or us, but because it encompasses the very essence of creation and the language to speak the true name of something in the language of the divine. Christus became intrigued by the wisdom shared by the indigenous wise woman and asked, "I understand, it's like speaking a word as if casting a spell, right?" Master Lady Nada replied, "Yes and no. It can be considered a word when we try to label it in the language we are currently using to communicate. However, true understanding and meaning can only be experienced firsthand and cannot be acquired solely through books and formal education." Christus nodded and shared his own experience. "I can relate to that. When I arrived here, I had a moment of enlightenment about the interconnectedness of numbers, space, and symmetry. I could visualize the numbers in my hands, and as I moved my hands, the triangle transformed visually. It was a groundbreaking moment for me to realize the direct relationship between numbers and geometry. In the traditional school I attended, knowledge was imparted solely through books, but as soon as I questioned the teachings and some of the books, I was told that I didn't understand and was asked to leave. It felt as though their knowledge was lifeless, mere words on paper that could accept and absorb anything, even facets. However, through experimental learning, everything becomes alive, and no one can manipulate the process or introduce deceit. Master Lady Nada smiled warmly and embraced Christus, saying, "My dear, we love you and are incredibly proud of you. You have rightly observed the shortcomings of knowledge confined to lifeless books. Let us delve deeper step by step before I must depart. Now, let us contemplate the relationship between God, humans, and society." Christus pondered the question and responded, "It is a question I have often asked myself, especially as I encountered the teachings of the rigid, book-centered institutions. Similarly, the knowledge about God and the creation of the universe seems confined to those very same books. When I sought wisdom from the priests in the temple, they told me that I was unworthy and inherently sinful. Yet, they also acknowledged that God created us in His own image. It is a paradoxical contradiction they speak aloud, accusing God, our beloved Father, of being sinful by birth simply because we share His image. This inconsistency lies at the heart of their rigid and dogmatic mindset. Octave harmony. Christus. Pythagorean. The language concept. I find it very different and only unconditional, where every word from their dead matter books that does not comply with and obey the law of unconditional love must be a little sneaky lie, nested in their dead matter books. It is so obvious to me, but finding the right words is not easy. Let me try. The difference between people who obey the 10 Commandments and those who do not creates the distortion. I feel that the ones from above have conscience, while the others do not, allowing them to act against God and sell their soul to the devil for a little power here on earth. Therefore, is it about conscience? Master Lady Nada said, yes, you are exactly right. In the end, this is the product. But let me ask you another question. What could be the most important ingredient and achievement that made our society and technological standard possible? Christus replied, well, I think it must be fire, or, wait, is it the plow? No, maybe the axe with the hammer on the opposite side, or farming. Master Lady Nada said, very interesting observations you have made, and all of them have made their contributions. But when you think about it, it must be our natural language. Christus questioned, but I did not find any wisdom in the natural language, nor was I looking for it, because knowledge must be defined as a top-level layer that uses language as only the substrate. I cannot understand. Master Lady Nada responded, again, you are completely right. It can only be understood in the larger context. It is not just the language or the natural language. No, not at all. It is the opposite. God and His language are used throughout the whole universe, and everyone knows it because it is universal and therefore needs no translation. You are about to find out what it really is, but for now, let us look at our history instead. All our war, grief, and despair are only because of the misunderstanding derived from language. There is a hidden group here on earth that decided to use Lucifer and his power to enslave people. It is what they call conspiracy praxis to control people's minds and make them obedient, instead of receiving their daily bread from God directly and for free. They are nonetheless very powerful beings and have managed to act as the top-level layer below Lucifer, the only true not God. Every other group forming the secret societies is on lower levels in Lucifer's power structure pyramid. The whole stack is the lower levels of Lucifer, and they must obey their beliefs and worship their only true not God by performing sacrifices. Let us go back to the natural language. At some point, the languages for each country were defined by scholars and their clerks. Just as they took the land from people and claimed it as theirs through weapons and force, where before the land belonged to everyone and many tribes lived as nomads, following the cycle of the year and experiencing Mother Earth in all its beauty instead of staying stationary. Now the point where it all comes together and makes sense is not the fact that they invented their natural languages. No, it is not their invention at all. Christus asked, but each and every language was a considerable effort to come up with. I must confess it is impressive to me. When I read the most beautiful poems, I feel the beauty and bliss, exactly what it seems to be meant for. Master Lady Nada said, again, I completely agree with everything you said. That is the best hidden secret of them all. The languages have directly derived from the universal language. I mean, all of them originated from God's language. Christus inquired, but then I would have felt something when learning the alphabet and pronouncing every letter, because I did it with utmost passion and focus, just to learn the most. There was no creativity going on at all, otherwise I would have noticed it. Master Lady Nada responded, "Just give me a hug, honey, and let's have some tea you brought." What they really did is they only inverted the true meaning behind the letters, where obviously the letters themselves were reinvented, otherwise we would have the true letters of God. Now the languages are all somehow related to each other. Christus remarked, "Oh yes, after the second language, the third was much more familiar and simpler to learn." Master Lady Nada said, "Exactly. That is because, after all, it is still the same concept of language definition as in the universal language. It has words built upon letters to describe everything, instead of pictograms like the hieroglyphs in Egypt. But the second part of the definition is the number, to express value and math. And at the lowest layer, there must always be the logic statements that come with the universal language and therefore with any other language distortion derived from it." Octave harmony. Christus. Pythagorean. Language logic concept. Christus asked, "What is meant by the logic part of language? I only know the zero logic, which I learned very naturally by looking into my money bag and understanding that if there is zero in my money bag, then I can't buy any food at the market. But what do you mean? Is there other logic in language?" Master Lady Nada replied, "Oh yes, the zero logic. Don't worry, my dear Christus, you will learn a lot and receive blessings, just as we did. There are many hidden logic components. The obvious ones are true or false, yes or no, 1 or 0. But there are others that make language much simpler to use and learn because they are based on how intelligence works and are the original and most natural way. I'll explain more later. Other statements are very useful too and easy to understand. In, out. If else, else. This, that, same, other. Self, us, them, they. Next, previous. Less, more. Low-level logic has defined itself, but it wasn't enough to express the subsequent creation on the higher harmonic overtone that our beloved Alpha God, Father in heaven, came up with. Simply put, before the .0, logic could express the entire collector verse and numbers. Once the new harmonic universe came into manifestation, the new symbols automatically defined themselves. As soon as the seed of life became the flower of life, anyone experiencing it could see the true name and receive the symbol. Even if someone couldn't physically look at it, they would still receive the new symbol as an update, just like how animal species can adapt to their environment in only a few generations, which doesn't take long at all for small animals. Christus asked, "So, you mean that Alpha Intelligence didn't design this language?" Master Lady Nada said, "It defined itself because it is nothing more than the expression of creation itself. Alpha, our Father in heaven, would hold his creation in mind throughout the day, and the intelligence in the nothingness would manifest to experience existence. From that point on, the true name was defined, and on our tablets, we discovered that the symbols were within us but hadn't reached the conscious level yet. Everything was there, but completely out of alignment. It's not our fault, it's a product of our birth, as we forget the moment we come into this physically dense matter. What's remarkable is that some exciting examples still exist, where species remain fully connected through collective consciousness." Christus responded, "That's true. Ants and bees are especially connected and know what to do or how to defend against enemies." Master Lady Nada said, "Exactly. We learned more and more tablets. It was very, very, very interesting and colorful to learn. One set of tablets explained all of that in great detail, but time is too short now. Essentially, there was this highly advanced civilization with technology and tools to make daily life easier. It was pure bliss due to multiple factors. The language they used was the universal language, and everything was perfectly organized. Their consciousness was similar to that of bees, ants, and Aboriginal people, where they had collective consciousness. In this way, no one would ever lie, and if they did as children, they would learn that there's nothing to hide because everyone would see and know the lie in their minds. Due to perfect alignment with God, they developed supreme technology for everyone, and it was all based on complete alignment using the harmony number space symmetry vector. These technological applications had their own energy sources, similar to how a chariot needs to be pulled by a horse or an ox. They completely understood the creation and the language necessary to create it. They used crystals as anchors to receive the energy that came down through the harmony number space symmetry vector, defined by the true name of the creation they designed. Christus exclaimed, "Wow, where are they located? I want to go there and join their community. That's exactly what I've always felt it should be like." Lady Nada replied, "This story, however, ends in tragedy. A small group thought they could build a massive machine that would use energy solely for their own egoistic purposes, going against the intentions of the others. Despite disagreements, they went ahead and built it, but it soon spiraled out of control, leading to the state our Earth is in today. They had to flee and decided to form 3 groups, starting anew somewhere else. They then realized that consciousness was shifting toward individual consciousness for most tribes on Earth. They began to understand that if future generations were no longer connected to the collective, how would they know about the past and the beauty of unconditional love on Earth? So, they created the tablets for us, allowing us to align with God using the harmony number space symmetry vector. Octave harmony. Christus. Pythagorean. The food of the master. Christus asked, "But I can't fully understand the connection to creation. I've been trying to manifest food using my psychic abilities, but instead, the beggar gave me 1 whole bread because he became 2. I was in the most relaxed state and planted the thought with utmost unconditional love. So why didn't it work for me?" Master Lady Nada said, "That's the true secret behind the secrecy. It's more of a logical consequence of our previous lives. The first concept we need to learn is the concept of learning itself. It's like learning to walk and talk. Each of these skills needs to be learned through training, trial, and error. This allows us to infinitely improve. Muscles are the most obvious example of the training needed, even as adults, to stay in perfect natural shape, which reflects the mind as the outermost layer manifested as the body, visible to everyone. Therefore, we are advised to learn and train the concepts necessary to pronounce the word of God and use it as a gift from God Alpha Intelligence. The concepts are simple and very useful." Christus said, "Now I'm beginning to understand. When I look into your eyes, I see the clarity of the universe, and the enlightenment is immensely powerful. So maybe you're not 19 years old as I expected. I look forward to the day when I can learn this myself." Master Lady Nada said, "The concepts have no specific order, but as you'll find, once you reach a certain point of understanding, learning, training, and being able to use them, you will serve God and heaven with specific tasks. You'll anchor the light and unconditional love from God Alpha Intelligence and the entire heaven." Christus asked, "How can I find my task?" Nada replied, "You just need to focus on the training, and then you'll receive the necessary vision. Never be afraid of anything or anyone because you are one of God's children. Everything was already clear and chosen before we came here. God Alpha Intelligence and the angels are not bound by our timeline, which is the physical process of the degeneration of densified matter." Fasting was the first concept we learned. It was described as an additional energy source to food. So we embarked on fasting, but it was a specially designed process called the light food initiation. The first week was a bit challenging, but in the second and third week, the body began to recover. On the third evening, it was described that the angels would come down and perform a special surgery. It wouldn't hurt at all, but would help us receive the daily bread from our beloved Father in heaven. It also served as a reset, purging the past from deep within our bones, as if negative thoughts and other mindsets were cleansed in 12 minutes. The second concept to train is meditation, the second pillar of the foundation. It allows us to enter a higher state of awareness. Meditation is the best way to practice holding harmony in mind while being immersed in unconditional love. It is a way to receive the daily bread and blessings. If you have plants or trees at home, you can also walk through the forest and meadows to experience the blissful energy. The third pillar is most important for you as a man, but not necessary for women, although the result would be the same. It is the sexual energy. This is the largest source of quantitative energy we have. On the upper chakra, we receive more qualitative life force. Christus asked, why is the quality different? Isn't it the same energy source as God? Nada answered, in the end, it is the same source, but the unique harmonic frequency aligns with a specific center in our bodies. All of these energies have common and unique characteristics, and in the East, they call them chakras. Each chakra has its color frequency and represents different aspects. Root chakra, color frequency red, related to sexual energy and life energy. Sacral chakra, color frequency orange. Solar plexus chakra, color frequency yellow. Heart chakra, color frequency green. Throat chakra, color frequency blue. Third eye chakra, color frequency indigo. Crown chakra, color frequency violet. As you can see, the color red is the first color in the rainbow and prism, thus the first color after infrared and the lowest frequency of them all. Now you can imagine that everything is ultimately based on frequency. Octave harmony. Christus. Pythagorean. The power of now. Christus asked, I find it difficult to understand. The earth isn't moving beneath my feet, and that rock over there has never budged since I've been here. So where is the frequency of creation in the rocks and soil? I just don't get it. Master Lady Nada said, what you see and feel on the surface is only a small part of the whole manifestation of the rock. It's the image in our mind created by our senses, the eyes, ears, taste buds, nerves, and nose. But as you may have heard from others, there are smaller layers made up of even smaller things, and it goes deeper and deeper. If you compare the size of these layers to the next level, it would be like comparing a single drop of water to a small lake. Now, when you think about the level of atoms that you're familiar with, you'll discover that they never stand still. In fact, they're in constant motion, dancing in perfect harmony and sheer bliss. This continuous dance is only possible at these smaller levels. However, when matter becomes very dense, as it does on the surface, it appears still to our eyes. But when I look closely, I see a complete dance of the collectal verse happening. As your training progresses and you become more focused, you'll start to experience this firsthand. Through practice, you'll receive visions and blessings. Christus asked, but how will I know when I'm ready for it? Master Lady Nada said, at some point, your daily life will be replaced by an entirely new feeling. It's the moment when your mindset changes. Often, humans hold on to hate from the past or fear the future, instead of being present in the now. Through the fasting process, these tendencies will fade away. In a lower state of consciousness, we think in terms of me, mine, and I want. But in a higher state of consciousness, we embrace, ours, we share, we can, and we live. Christus said, I understand. Thank you, Master, for enlightening me. It's true, I've noticed how people in the marketplace tend to act that way, fearful of existence rather than appreciating the gift from our beloved Father in heaven. During my pilgrimage, I learned that if I am not hungry, if there is no immediate danger, if I am not cold at night or exposed to rain or snow, then I need not fear. Those fears are false images that prevent me from staying in the present and fully enjoying and experiencing existence. Master Lady Nada said, My dear, that is the first and lowest concept one must master. I have found that the children of God already do this intuitively, while others seek security and don't trust in God, relying on external sources for their daily bread, which leads to a disconnection. Christus added, That's true. I've met interesting people on my journey who also understand the power of now and have faith in God. It's exciting to connect with these individuals. However, in the evenings, when our conversations delved deeper, I found it difficult to agree with their concepts, as I had my own perspective. Unfortunately, they wouldn't listen to my ideas, assuming that no one could be smarter than them, especially a teenager like me. Many of them claimed to have received secret knowledge from a costly master, believing it was worth the price for enlightenment. Master Lady Nada said, the parasites and their followers. I know exactly what you mean. They have become a part of my life as well. Octave harmony. Christus. Pythagorean. The octave of creation. Master Lady Nada said, we were filled with gratitude for the blessings we received and it was time to share our knowledge with the world. So I followed their instructions and set out to find the wise and bring the law of harmonics back to the world as a precious gift for everyone. However, they did not listen to me and asked me to leave, as they believed that a 19-year-old girl or woman could not join their club of enlightenment. But I knew deep down that I was not there in vain, so I remained calm. That's when Pythagoras approached me and engaged in conversation, intrigued by my presence and eagerness to learn. Christus said, Oh yes, I understand what you mean, as I also met Master Carpenter and the Pythagoreans. Master Lady Nada said, it's all part of the creation itself. Let's start with 0, but first, let's have some more tea. As you have already learned, the creation of alpha intelligence began with the first higher harmonic, followed by the collector verse from Grandpa Metatron. Christus replied, Oh yes, the nothingness, the 0 that can be both nothing and everything. Master Lady Nada said, Exactly, now it's all coming together, and we can finally paint the bigger picture. Once you reach the higher state of consciousness through natural means, not induced by herbs, plants, or mushroom rituals, then your training is complete. Now, let's revisit the example of the village, shall we? Christus answered, Oh yes, the animals came to help, and the mistreated horses were able to escape back home. It was music to my ears. Master Lady Nada said, First, we were instructed to create an energy field sphere and expand it to the size of the village. We were to hold it there and not fear. The rest was done by others, not us. It was a great success and brought a wonderful feeling. Christus asked, the sphere. It must represent the thought of light and unconditional love. Master Lady Nada said, Yes, my dear, but that was just the beginning. The next layer of thought was to envision the village in all its beauty, where everyone was happy again, just like before the troublemakers arrived. Then, the third part was to extend this same vision to the animals, particularly the horses, as they were being mistreated by the troublemakers. Initially, everything happened without us actively doing it, as if it fell into place at the right time. But as we continued our training, reading tablets, and focusing more, we began to understand. Now, we have the 0, and next comes the 1, which represents the first manifestation, the atomic level, the first layer of creation. The 2 is the multiplication of the 1, allowing for cell multiplication, and also represents the concept of binary numbers. The 3, as you mentioned, is the foundation for the seed of life. The 4 symbolizes material stability, representing earth and soil. The 5 is the first prime number, and prime numbers play a significant role. The 6 represents the seed of life and the concept of pi. The 7 is another prime number. The 8 represents the logical consequence in the vector, 0, 1, 2, 4, 8. The 9 represents the logical consequence in the vector, 3, 6, 9, 12. The 10 is a composite number, not a real number. The 11 is a prime number, representing the logical consequence in the vector, 5, 7, 11. Christus exclaimed in astonishment, "Wow, that's fascinating. And now comes the 12, I understand. Thank you, Master Lady Nada, for enlightening me." Master Lady Nada said, "Exactly, the sacred 12, the ultimate harmony with the best possible outcome. That's why Alpha Intelligence's creation has 12 levels. The year has 12 months, and a dozen eggs consists of 12 units. This concept was present in God's creation, but it serves as a theory to understand the principles of creation and the relationship between sizes. Now, let's begin like this." Master Lady Nada started chanting the monochord, starting with the first harmonic and gradually ascending to the higher ones. Master Lady Nada said, "The knowledge we gained is that the higher harmonics of creation differ greatly in size, as I mentioned before. But the truly fascinating fact is that the monochord allows us to harmonize these numbers in a way that we can hear." Octave harmony. Christus. Pythagorean. The great source mountain. Christus asked, "What do you mean? Are the numbers in the harmonic symmetry directly related to the frequency of the levels of creation? But how can the frequency, which seems so close, represent the huge size difference of the levels?" Master Lady Nada said, "That's it. We now have the final connection, the harmony number space symmetry vector, the language of God, as they simplify its true meaning. Now the extraordinary difference in size between the levels of creation, all related to the harmonic numbers, can be represented in our range of perception. When I sing the monochord, the voice resonates completely, causing the fundamental frequency to seemingly disappear. However, this resonance frequency is not the true frequency of the level of creation and its number and geometry, it is actually a double of it. It must align with the concept of the octave to fully represent the harmonic of the creation level." Christus asked, "Oh, the octave. I like that. It has a pure, clean, and strong sound. It was the first concept I experienced with my monochord. But there's still something I don't understand. When tuning the second harmonic to create the octave, I would use the beat frequency to tune it. How do you then fit in the next higher or lower harmonic and hit the exact pitch?" Master Lady Nada said, "This is another aspect of it. I don't need to tune or find the pitch. The creation itself includes the acoustics harmonics. This means that my voice and the monochord directly align with the overtone I focus on, and my mouth acts as the resonance body. Now we have the harmonic overtone in full resonance with its parent harmonic in the creation, but only the octave matches and not the absolute frequency. This leads to a deeper understanding of how it truly works. The matching octave ratios are also part of this level of harmonic and belong to that overtone of creation. When you experience it for yourself, you will discover that the foundation of creation lies in its numbers. These numbers define its final structure, similar to how a quartz crystal has a hexagonal concept and fully develops into that structure. However, at this specific overtone of creation, it is still the lower-level collectal flower field multiples that create the foundational layers. What this means is that collectal will always be fully in harmony through the harmony number space symmetry vector alignment. This alignment is the top-level vector that connects a whole harmonic overtone of creation from alpha intelligence. Christus said, "It's so interesting, but I'm struggling to grasp the correct mindset." Master Lady Nada said, "I see the creation with its 12 levels as the Garden of Eden, and above it is heaven. The picture is vast, and I can ascend to see something distant. Now I see the rays of creation emanating from the source of life, nourishing the Garden of Eden with energy. It starts at the top of the great source mountain, where like any other source, it emerges from the mountain and not in the valley, feeding the plants and animals living there. At first, I see one energy ray coming out of the mountain, which we call Elohim, the first harmonic, the alpha intelligence. As it descends, it expands in an impressive way, surpassing words to describe its dimensions. Now comes the moment where the source ray transforms into the next harmonic overtone level, in full harmony with the source. A harmonic chord appears, just as you experience it with your monochord. The other harmonics are derived by the seraphim. They only use the harmonic and do not alter the source from Elohim. From now on, the rays expand and form the vector, descending into their respective levels of creation. This is the harmony number space symmetry vector, but on the macro level of the universe. Octave harmony. Christus. Pythagorean. The silent whispering of knowledge. Christus asked, "I'm trying to understand how the different levels of creation are connected. How can such different levels be represented by frequencies that are so close together?" Master Lady Nada explained, "In the creation around us, there are many harmonics involved. These harmonics are always connected to the fundamental frequency, which is represented by the number 1. When I sing or play the monochord, it matches more than half of the levels of creation, but it is transformed down by the octave law so that we can perceive it. It's like hearing the same thing, but on a different level or scale. That's why musical instruments have 12 halftones in an octave." Christus exclaimed, "Wow, the number 12 is amazing. It's the most divisible number of all. Thank you, Master Lady Nada, for enlightening me. I feel so fortunate to have met you today." Master Lady Nada smiled and said, "Come here, let me give you a hug. Remember, my name is Nada. Look at me." Christus replied, "Oh, yes. You look young and full of ambition. Thank you so much, Nada. I will never forget this experience, and I hope to see you again in the future." Master Lady Nada said, "Our journey was decided before we arrived here. We have been blessed by God to walk the path that was set for us as children of the true God, Alpha Intelligence. You will learn much more, but always remember to practice and continue learning and improving yourself. This is the ultimate concept of Alpha Intelligence and will lead to the ability to create and heal, even here on Earth. If your desires are in line with the creation and your purpose, you will receive what you seek. Keep asking, seeking, and knocking." Christus felt immense joy and said, "I am grateful to have you as my friend. Thank you so much. I now understand the importance of aligning ourselves with Elohim, the source, and focusing on the specific harmonic of creation using the harmony number space symmetry vector, which I can experience when you chant." Master Lady Nada nodded and added, "Indeed, the seraphim top-level vector is also included in what you described. The final creation has a harmonic related to the other 2 harmonics. Imagination plays a powerful role in achieving psychokinesis, a concept accessible to only a few humans." Christus exclaimed, "That's fascinating. I am eager to learn and train myself." Master Lady Nada smiled and said, "You have been doing so throughout your life. While others had fun and hung out, you were behind books, seeking knowledge that whispered silently to you. You were the one who listened to that voice. Even though society may create noise and distractions, one of us will be in the same place as you, and you will find them. Never be afraid, no matter how society may treat us when we approach scholars and their secrets. In the end, it will all be worth it. Now, I must go. Give me one last hug, honey." Octave harmony. Christus. Pythagorean. Creation octave alignment at A for 40 for HZ. Christus set off on his journey to join the carpenter and learn the craft guild. As he walked, he couldn't help but think about the incredible knowledge he had gained from Lady Nada and Master Pythagoras. He remembered their teachings about the octave harmony, the alignment of the creation, and the importance of the harmony number space symmetry vector. As he reached the carpenter's workshop, he was greeted warmly. The carpenter explained that his craft was not only about creating physical objects, but also about aligning them with the harmony of the creation. He showed Christus the tools and techniques he used to create instruments that resonated with the harmony number space symmetry vector. Christus was fascinated by the intricate process of tuning the instruments. The carpenter explained that the bass tuning of 444 cycles per second, aligned with the URIM fundamental, was crucial for achieving the desired harmonics. He also mentioned the importance of undertones, which allowed for the infinite expansion of intelligence and understanding. Over time, Christus learned the art of crafting instruments and fine-tuning them to perfection. He became skilled in creating instruments that were not only visually pleasing but also produced beautiful harmonies when played. Months passed, and Christus grew in knowledge and skill. He became a true apprentice of the carpenter, honing his craft and understanding the deeper connections between music, harmony, and the creation. One day, as Christus walked through the market, he saw Maria, the girl he had admired before. He couldn't help but notice her simplicity and inner beauty. He approached her with a smile, and they started talking. Christus shared his passion for music and the art of instrument making. Maria was intrigued and expressed her interest in learning more about the harmonies and melodies created by these instruments. With excitement in his eyes, Christus invited Maria to visit the carpenter's workshop and experience the enchanting sounds firsthand. Maria accepted the invitation, and they made plans to meet at the workshop the following day. As the sun began to set, Christus returned to the workshop, eager to continue his journey of learning and creation. With the guidance of the carpenter, he knew that he was on the path to mastering the octave harmony and creating instruments that would bring joy and harmony to the world. And so, with a heart full of passion and a mind filled with knowledge, Christus embraced his new role as an apprentice of the carpenter and embarked on a journey that would forever shape his destiny.